Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. We're here today for the Education, Environment, Sustainability Committee meeting. We're here on April 4th at 1 o'clock, which is an irregular day, so we appreciate you coming in today. Can we have a roll call, please?
Calling the roll, Ms. Simon?
Here.
Ms. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Ms. Stevens? Ms. Stevens is absent. Mr. Brady? Mr. Brady is absent at the moment. There is a quorum.
Thank you. Any public comment?
No, Madam Chair, no one is signed in.
Okay, so we're going to proceed with the first matter, which is Resolution 2019-0077. Can you read that, please, for the record?
Resolution number 2019-0077, making an award to College Now Greater Cleveland in the amount of $500,000 from the Cuyahoga County Educational Assistance Fund for Component 2, the Cuyahoga County Educational Assistance Program.
Thank you. Do we have anybody here from College Now? Okay.
Thank you for having us. We're always delighted to be here and so grateful for your ongoing support. We're here to talk about the 7th cohort of students you'd be funding with this resolution. It has made a big difference for lots and lots of students, and our success we're really proud of with your partnership. The students on the whole have been either in school or have graduated on time is 78%. It's actually so far above the national average for this cohort of kids that it's really kind of a pace setter. So as you know, we pair them with mentors. We think that helps. And we also believe that the mentors are also helping them as we move on. We don't have hard data, but they stay in Cleveland because now they have connections here, right? They get human capital, right, and a whole network, social capital that they might not have had. So, we're very proud to do the work. We're happy to answer any questions. Bob has all kinds of specifics on the numbers if you'd like us to go over them.
Sure. I'm sure there'll be questions, but what is the national average that we're exceeding?
So the national average for all students, meaning coming from all incomes, top income, lowest, is about 55% on-time completion rate. For low-income students, it's about, Pell eligible, it's about 40%, a little over 40%. And for students coming out of sort of lowest poverty, it's in like 22%. So this would be juxtaposed against somewhere between that 22 to 40% is where it is. So the 78 is really remarkable because it's 20% better than the kids, all kids. I mean, it's really awesome.
Great. Okay, do you want me to proceed with Bob, or do you have a question, Councilman Jones?
Just clarity on the percentage. It kind of went over my head. What is it a percentage of?
On-time completion or persistence at school. So the federal government measures on-time completion for four-year colleges at 6 years. You may wonder why they do that, because it usually takes kids 6 years, especially big state schools. So the on-time completion for all students in the United States is around 55%, roughly. This cohort of kids, the ones you're funding, are either still in school or they've graduated at 78%. So they're persisting or having finished. So it's really way past the national average. And these students are low-income students, right? They're Pell eligible. So that is in that 40%, and from students coming from the highest areas of poverty, it's more like 22%. So this is way, way, way better. Okay. Bob.
Okay, so we're really excited. We're, anticipating being able to award another group of students at a $7,000 award, which would be $1,750 a year for 4 years. And we anticipate, with this carryover funds that have been approved in the past, that if there's any unused funds out of a cohort, that would go towards the new cohort, that we could be right around 75 new students, which is right about where we've been in the past. As she mentioned, our first cohort is actually finishing up their 6th year, so we will have some really data, like final data, next year. But that first cohort, 70% have either graduated or are still enrolled in school, which is an amazing number. 35 kids from that original cohort of 63 have graduated college, which is a great number. And as you see over the years, there's varied success each year because these are humans, so we do try to support them. But I think with some other areas like cohort 3, 87% have either graduated or still enrolled, and those were 2015 high school graduates, so they're just finishing up their 4th year. So that to have 87%, I think, is a real highlight of that group, that we could possibly see an 80% graduation rate, which would be amazing. Some of the criteria that we've always used is, they have to be residents of Cuyahoga County and attending a College Now served high school, which we're in about 70 high schools in Cuyahoga County, and they have to qualify for the federal Pell Grant. They have to have a 2.5 minimum GPA. Now, that's the minimum. There are students that have much higher than that, and they have to have an 18 on the ACT score or a 960 on SAT, which is about the same score, and that's what we deem college ready. So we want to make sure we're not sending kids to college that aren't going to be successful or don't have the academics. Nationally, actually, the average ACT score is about a 21, which they predict is college ready, but we know that there's some bias to the test and things like that, so we found that 18 is they can go to a 4-year school and be successful. And they also have to take part in our mentoring program. So the mentoring program is a required program for them to take part in. Just for any of those who don't remember, our mentoring program is done primarily online. It's a curriculum-based program, so the students are matched with a volunteer in the community. That volunteer and the student communicate about every other week over a computer platform that we provide them, and it's based on where they're at in school. So for freshmen, it's a lot of that transition to college stuff. As they continue to go through school, the curriculum changes to where you're seniors. It's a lot of the graduate school or career things. We also do some events each year to try to encourage we do ask them to meet in person 2 to 3 times a year, and we have events each year to try to promote that. So each year we have a kickoff event for the freshmen in the fall, and then January we do a career fair along with a mentor appreciation luncheon, trying to give this year we had 44 companies come on offer, and students got a chance to look for career opportunities here in the Cleveland area, and it's very exciting. It's that career fair has grown. I think we were about 20 the first year, so we've more than doubled it. We've been doing it for about 5 years now, so I'll take any questions you guys have.
Any questions from committee? Councilwoman Brown.
With the recent Say Yes to Cleveland, do you guys have any role or partnership within that program? And if so, can you speak to that?
Of course. Yes, actually, College Now is proud to have been a convening partner. There are 6 convening partners: the Cleveland Foundation, the county, of course, the city, CMSD, United Way, and College Now. We were the ones that led the effort. College Now will run the scholarship program and the mentoring program. So also, because the results have been so profound in terms of improving student success and creating social capital, unlike other Say Yes cities, it will be also a requirement to get the Say Yes scholarship to have a mentor. So we are running those aspects, and of course, we're continuing to provide advising in the schools at CMSD and all around the county for that matter, but just in terms of that. So yes, we do have a very significant role.
And I guess the last question I would ask is if you could just touch, you said cohort 3 was pacing at an 87%.
Mm-hmm.
So when will they be complete? What is their expected completion year?
When is that?
That's they're finishing up their 4th year, so their 6-year graduation rate would be 2 years from now. We've already 5 before this year had graduated, so some graduated early, but you'd be looking at 2 years from now would be the end of their 6-year window. Now, we're hoping many of them graduate earlier than the 6 years, but that's how long the federal government tracks graduation. Now, the scholarship is only for 4 years, so the scholarship does not continue into their 5th and 6th year. Now, our mentoring program does continue. We will still offer them the opportunity to speak with their mentor and things of that.
And the number in that cohort?
Original number was 75 students.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Councilman Jones.
Getting clarification, Say Yes to Education, is that, you said Cleveland, but it did Say Yes to Education. Is that who you are facilitating the scholarship dollars for?
Exactly. So there is a Say Yes to Education is a national organization out of New York. They have just set up a Cleveland office once we launched. The Cleveland office is being run by Diane Downing. Many of you probably know Diane. So she oversees the whole of what is wraparound services and all the community involvement, the parent engagement, the teacher engagement, the labor unions, the funders, to make sure the kids have full wraparound in the schools. In other cities, there was no such thing as College Now, so they did some of our part, but just on a very small level. So because there's College Now and because we're a long-standing organization, we are going to run the college access services in the buildings because we've been doing that for 50 years, the scholarship piece and the mentoring piece. So we're working like kind of hand in glove.
So again, Say Yes, their mission is to send every Cleveland graduating student to college and pay for the college.
Right.
So you will facilitate that.
Yes.
College.
So they give us the dollars to distribute. We're not I've been involved with some of the fundraising, but that pool of money is sitting invested at the Cleveland Foundation. It has a scholarship board, and they will, once we figure out who's eligible for the scholarship, there's eligibility, obviously, you have to be a city resident, some other things, then we will verify how many kids are going and how much money they will get. Money comes over to College Now. Bob and his team distributes it, matches them with a mentor. It's no different than this in a way. You're the sponsor for this, and then we go ahead and do that on behalf of the county, and it's basically the same thing on a bigger scale.
You mentioned you have 70 schools now. I assume that they're not all Cleveland schools.
No. So that's our entire footprint. College Now's entire footprint is 70 schools in the county. We're in 120 schools, sort of Northeast Ohio wide, including Lorraine and other places where there's a funding source, like Nordson. They have the same interests you do, so they fund it there. But so in Cleveland, we're in every high school.
Okay, every high
Yeah,
school.
every high school. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. How about cities like Maple Heights, Garfield? And I say this for a reason, but Garfield Heights, Maple Heights, Warrensville Heights, and Cleveland Heights. Are those 4 schools?
They're not Say Yes schools, but we are in most of those. Are we in every one of those schools? I think we're in most of those. Yes, I think we are.
You are.
Yep.
Okay.
They would not be eligible for the Say Yes.
Yeah, the Say Yes, it's its own pot of
That's only
money.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're advising in those schools.
Yeah, we do the advising, and they're eligible for this scholarship.
Right.
As an example.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilwoman Brown?
Thanks. So given those numbers and the circumstances now with Say Yes being such a prominent, having such a prominent role in the Cleveland schools, have we given any thought to maybe giving more attention to our the schools outside of Cleveland relative to College Now? Has that been a topic of discussion?
In terms of the scholarship dollars or
Yes.
advising? Our scholarship dollars?
Scholarship, College Now scholarship dollars.
Well, honestly, we have given it some thought, and one of the ways we could do that with more ease, because a lot of the kids in Cleveland are going to get fully funded, is if you loosened your constraints and not only required kids to live in the county and go to school in the county. So if, let's just say, the county were to decide to have kids that lived in the county but went to school at Kent or Ohio State or Oberlin, we'd have a better ability to move more of those dollars to the suburbs. Because what happens is, if you're, let's say you went to Shaker, I know I'm making it up, but let's say you went to Shaker and you are into fashion design and you get into Kent State. Well, I can't give you county money, regardless of Say Yes, because right now, the way you have it configured, I can only give you money for, CSU and wherever it is. So sometimes kids walk away from your money, and so they have a bigger gap. If you were to reconsider that in light of Say Yes, I think we would be getting more money to more kids in a bigger, broader area, because kids will make the decision they want to make. They won't go to Cleveland State necessarily just because they can get more money. I mean, you could make that argument, but kids and their families, they make their decisions the way they want to make them if they get into a better school that they think is better for them.
Are the Say Yes dollars not restricted to?
They are restricted to Ohio schools, public Ohio schools. So those kids, so they have all the option. Okay. Plus, they have some private schools too.
Okay.
So if you guys switched it like that, then we'd have more ability, knowing these kids in Cleveland are getting fully funded. Then we'd have more demand for your dollars. But part of what happens is sometimes the kids don't want your dollars because they're limited.
Well, I'd certainly like to see that number that would walk away from the resources, just so it can give us a better idea as to look into that picture to broaden the scope of where we should allow those dollars to go. So if you could demonstrate that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
I think we could show you where the students go. I don't, if that was actually a decision that they, because we don't actually select those students, so we don't know if they would have.
Yeah, right.
Because we don't select students that don't meet the criteria. So that wouldn't happen. I think the other thing important to remember is that the Say Yes scholarship is tuition only, where this scholarship is cost of attendance, so students can use it for room and board and things of that nature. So even the students that are getting Say Yes will still have gaps to cover. So there will be students that get Say Yes and could still benefit from this scholarship.
If I may, this has been an ongoing discussion from when I began on this committee years ago. I have never been in favor of restricting our students where they go to school in the state of Ohio. And okay, Councilman Brady, I mean,
I didn't mean to break in.
But,
I was just signaling you that
oh, okay. Yeah, so
my
I'll
term
defer to
term.
Council President, but I'm advocating to this committee that we amend this with an ordinance. I've asked staff to draft it. I've always said the students have talent and we're restricting their inspiration and their ability. If fashion design, it can. Musical students going to Oberlin or Ohio State for whatever. And it's really about the students. We're empowering students. We're not here to necessarily, make sure Tri-C gets their limit. This is about the kids and letting them excel in something that they have a passion for. And we've not been able to do that. So I'm going to be introducing legislation to just make this, the students to go within the state of Ohio. I think that's more than reasonable. So I want to defer to Council President.
I don't need you to defer. I was just, I was actually, I was going to ask, even though you can't tell us exactly, where people, anecdotally from what you're doing, where people are likely to go. But the chairperson's made the point better than I was going to. And don't forget journalism school at Ohio University.
Well, there you go. Okay, right, because we're student-centric at college. Now, we want kids to go to their best fit, where they get their best whole package. Anecdotally, I can tell you that kids coming from Pell-eligible homes, 80% of them go in what I'm going to call Northeast Ohio. Okay, because if you can't afford to go to college, you're not going to Boston, right? So where we see the kids is, Cleveland State still gets the most, Tri-C, Kent, obviously, OU, Ohio State, Bowling Green, BW, John Carroll, Miami of Ohio. That's where they go, right? Because that's where they are going to get the best package. Families that don't have tons of money want their kids within a drive distance, so they don't have to pay for hotels. And I mean, it's the picture about money just permeates and permeates and permeates. So that's real. I mean, that's anecdotally, I can tell you. The top kids, the kids that are just so talented, either academically, athletically, musically, science, geniuses, they get full rides to Harvard and those places. And you're not funding those kids anyway, so it doesn't matter. They're going to get full rides. But, let's face it, that's, out of the county, it's this many kids. So you don't have to worry about those kids. Those kids, the ones that are just in a whole different universe, they get sought after very well, and most of these high schools know how to get them into those schools, and they will get full rides, including cost of attendance and everything. But Oberlin and stuff, some of those, they give them money, but they can't always give them all the money, so your money would make a big difference at a place like that. Is that what you were asking?
Yes, more or less.
Thank you, Council
I
President.
know that when I went to OU a million years ago, that there were an awful lot of people from Cuyahoga County.
Oh,
because I met
always.
an awful lot of
Always.
them, so I know they're there.
Absolutely.
I can add to those, to just sort of additionally to that, is the students that have an opportunity, we talk, where are they going to be successful at? And sometimes students, if they pick schools based solely on financial, aren't going to be, they go to schools that they might not be successful at, because some schools have more support services, they have better programs in certain, like you mentioned, OU is a perfect example. If you have a journalism student in Cleveland, if they have an opportunity to go to the journalism school at Ohio University, that's an opportunity that a lot of kids don't have, and if they were able to be able to afford it, it would be a great opportunity for them. Same as, Miami and accounting. Accountants, that come out of Miami, they're instantly swooped up by the accounting firms here in Cleveland. So those are types of opportunities that sometimes students have to make based on funding, and that's not always that sometimes contributes to not being successful.
I remember the conversation a few years ago, and the overall momentum was towards keeping it within Cuyahoga County. But after this conversation today, I support what I'm hearing, because we want to empower our students, not necessarily the institutions in this particular instance, and it makes sense to allow them to go to where they are the best fit.
Exactly.
And locally within driving distance, as you say.
I appreciate that because it's also an equity issue. You know, kids coming from middle class or upper middle class families, they don't have to make that choice, right? They can go where it is their best fit. So I hate to see kids who, in some cases, have survived the academic environments, or you know what I mean? Like, it's hard. They're not coming from college-going cultures, and now they've got these great opportunities, but they can't quite reach, right? So it would be awesome, I think. Thank you.
You have elevated my thinking.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so thank you. I'll be getting an ordinance to address that in committee. So this resolution is just allowing for this $500,000 to go forward for the next cohort, and there's no need for suspension, right? No need for suspension. We're on target with this. This
Absolutely.
is just our annual funding of the next cohort, and so I would ask, move for, so move to the next council meeting for second reading
Second.
without suspension. Okay, great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, and we'll be coming back with that ordinance, and also just,
Great.
you know, this is part of the Educational Assistance Program, which we developed with Julian Rogers early on as a mandate of the charter, which explicitly directs the county council to establish an education program, and this is what we have, and it's working out really well. It's one part of two. The other one is workforce. So thank you very much. We'll come
Thank you.
back and talk to you next time.
Very grateful for your support, all of
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Did you want to approve the minutes?
Oh, March 20th, yes. Motion to approve the minutes for March 20th. Sorry about that. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Minutes approved. Okay, Resolution 2019-0088. Could we have a reading of that?
Resolution number 2019-0088, making an award on requisition number 44122 to Youth Opportunities Unlimited in the amount not to exceed $4,511,760 for the Comprehensive Case Management Employment Program.
Thank you. Hello.
Good morning, or actually good afternoon. David Merriman. I'm here with the Department of Health and Human Services, and I'm joined by,
Frank Brickner, the Deputy Director of Workforce Development.
and we'll be joined shortly by the staff from Ohio Means Jobs. Youth Opportunities Unlimited. So first, I want to thank you for hearing this item today. Historically, this item has gone to the Health and Human Service Committee as it has been attached to Job and Family Services. We're here today because for the first time, Job and Family Services and Ohio Means Jobs has jointly procured and is jointly contracting for this service. We're very excited about this because we believe this will afford this program the integration and the coordination that it deserves. We hope that the service that will result from it will be more resident focused and will be able to draw the best from both Job and Family Service resources, Ohio Means Jobs resources, community resources, and in doing that, we feel that we will be better able to serve both the individual businesses that are in the community and the community itself. Historically, this initiative was funded solely by the predecessor to Ohio Means Jobs. A funding decision made that not possible. The program shifted to TANF, or Temporary Aid to Needy Family funding. And so for, I think, probably the duration that this council has been in place, Job and Family Services has received funding every year for a program called Summer Youth Employment. Generally speaking, that funding would come in late April, early May, and we would usually come to council to say, we've gotten our award yesterday, we now need to move to contract today because there has to be a program for the summer. We'd request your indulgence, we'd ask for forgiveness, and we would look to move our contract quickly. And I think what we've done here is different. We have jointly procured with Ohio Means Jobs, given ourselves the time that we need to launch this program. Unfortunately, even though the item went in late, we recognize that we're already in the term. And to further complicate matters, YOU gets a great deal of other community resources for this program, and they need to have the enrollment process already started at the beginning of the year for them to field all of those resources. So we recognize that this is there's the appearance that this contract has already begun. YOU begins the contract with the hope that they're going to get funding, partially because they get funding from the rest of the community, and they hope to get our funding to be a part of that. So we know that that is available, and I think we're going to be requesting passage with suspension. The other thing that I would point to, and then I'm going to turn it over to Frank to talk through the specifics. A lot of what this program has been in the past has been very focused on middle-aged teens that are 14 and 15, and that is still a focus. We still serve teens that are high school age and that are in high school. In fact, the majority of what we're talking about today are high school age youth. But this is connected to a broader initiative called the Comprehensive Case Management Employment Program, or as we frequently call it, CCMEP. And the balance of the CCMEP program, the majority of the resources are still in procurement. So, and that procurement is the same procurement that landed on this grant. We haven't made decisions about it yet. So there are other services we're going to be bringing back to this community that really tie to the sustainability and how we serve youth that are not in high school, and how we do year-round services. And we haven't made decisions or announcements about who the grantees will be for that. So that procurement process is still in place, and our contract for that won't begin until July. So we have time. We'll have it in prior to the time. But you may have questions about why are we serving this youth and not that youth. We're just going to ask you to hold some of those questions, because we'll be coming back very shortly to answer them. So let me ask Frank to walk us through the procurement and also give us a little bit more detail from the Ohio Means Jobs perspective.
Sure. We started the procurement process in November, I believe. And what we realized is we're using two different federal funding sources, TANF and WIOA. And we really recognize that to do justice, we had to make sure, so we're not repaying dollars back, that we addressed all the federal funding requirements from both funding sources. So it took a bit more time to develop the RFP than normal. Then, because we are putting a new initiative to the community, instead two different RFPs to respond to, there's one RFP. We gave proposers a couple extra weeks to put together a response, because we thought it was the right thing to do, to recognize you may be enrolling individuals under WIOA, you may be enrolling under TANF. Ideally, you want to co-enroll. These individuals, the vast majority will be eligible for both programs, so we can take advantage of both programs. Maybe there's some services that WIOA won't pay, but TANF can, and vice versa. So we're taking advantage, but it did take a little bit long. We thought when we released it, we allowed plenty of time, but we're a little tight with this one. The other proposed contracts to serve out-of-school youth will be coming and will be on time before July 1st. But this contract specifically, we did go through, we had a team of reviewers. We unanimously approved Youth Opportunities Unlimited to run the summer work experience. This is why they were set up. They do a good job. They have relationships with the employers. They get the youth. Over 10,000 youth will apply. We can only serve 1,000 with these dollars. So it's just, it's what we can maximize to do with our limited dollars, because the majority of our dollars really need to be geared to out-of-school youth. They will serve 1,000 youth. Individuals will receive $8.55 an hour minimum wage, or if they're a senior, $10 an hour. And what we like about this is not only does YOU have relationships with employers, but they match the youth to their career interests and are mindful about where the youth will be employed and in their neighborhood too. So I think they do a very nice job with that. So this proposal will allow 1,000 youth to receive summer work experience. It will continue serving 800 out of school, to bring them along until June 30th also, until we award contracts to out of school youth providers that we will be bringing forward, hopefully in the next month or so.
Thanks, Fred.
If I could add just a little more detail about the 1,000 youth that will be served, we will be doing some carve-outs. For example, youth that are in custody of Division of Children and Family Services, we're going to prioritize giving them a summer job. For many of those youth that will, unfortunately, some of them will age out of the foster care system, we want to try to give them a leg up and to be able to have some early work experience. And so when they finish their time with Children and Family Services, they have some work experience. A key component of this project has been to focus the older youth on placement in businesses that hire. Yeah, I would recognize youth that are 14 and 15, if this is their first job, we may, in fact, want to continue to place many of them in the nonprofits that are in this community because they're going to be more sensitive to the needs of a 14 or 15-year-old. It's a reasonable thing to do if this is that youth's first job. But somebody that's 16, 17, 18 years old, if they don't have a plan to go to college or to the military, or they don't have a trade, and they're actually looking for a job, our intent is to place them with an employer and for us to be paying them while they're really trying out a job. And we want those employers to keep those youth employed. The other part of that is that we don't necessarily want our youth to stay there forever, right? Even though we talk about paying a little more than minimum wage. If we're placing a youth at a retail establishment or a food establishment and it may be their first job ever, that's an okay first job. But that's not a job that they're going to be able to raise a family on, most likely, or really sustain even their own needs. So a component of this program is actually to provide year-round services. Even though we serve them in the summer, that's when they're employed, we have to follow them for the rest of the year. Check in with them, see how their career development is going. And for a high school age student, it's probably pretty light services. Somebody that's 14 and 15, we're years away from them actually starting their career. However, somebody that's 18 and not going to college, not going to a trade school, that doesn't already have a good job lined up, that can be very intensive service. And so that we're bringing them back in, we're offering them training and education that might be on the OMJ dollars or it might be on the JFS dollars, whatever works best. And quite frankly, wherever the most money is, that's where we're going to go with. A last part of this, and then I'd like to invite Craig Dorn up to talk a little bit about the program from the agency's perspective and from the residents' perspective. So a part of this program has been the creation of this youth consortium. When we started the program, really in earnest a couple years ago, OMJ would have its provider meetings every month, and JFS would have its provider meetings once a month. And we said, let's bring these together. And although there are still individual meetings, we started hosting our meetings together. And if I had a meeting with the providers, I invited OMJ. And I said, this is as much your meeting as it is my meeting. Maybe I'm funding the entirety of the contracts, but these are your providers too. And, I think that it's really taken off to the point that our foundations are now saying, before we announce this award, are you going to stop that process? Because we feel it's valuable for you to be bringing everyone together to coordinate the system, to get feedback from them. What sort of feedback do they give? When we bring the providers together, we say, what are the issues that you're hearing about and you need us, the county, to fix? They always talk about childcare, top of the list. If we're working with a mom who's a teen mother and is doing this summer job and wants to go to the next job, they got to figure out childcare. So our system has to be responsive to them. And we have to hear their experiences and make changes in the program. So this has been something that we're very proud of. We think this will continue to be a component. And it's to the point now that when organizations like Say Yes to Education or, College Now, they launched a new service to help service providers find the training programs in their community. They came and they presented it at our meeting. to say, hey, listen, we've got a new database, a new data resource to have you help your clients find the training that's in their community. And they walked our providers through on how to actually use that database to say, oh, you want to go into a training program? These are your options from providers, and this is the cost, and these are the expectations, and this is the sort of job you can get out of it. So that organizing effort is something we've been proud of. It's going to continue. We think it's going to grow. And we're very excited to bring this item to you, obviously. And so I'm going to ask Craig to come up and share just a little bit about the information, about the program. As he comes up, I do also just want to recognize YOU learned today that they lost a longtime employee who was unfortunately found dead. And I don't want to give out specifics on name and everything, but this is someone who's been with the program for 25 years. And I know that we get used to seeing each other up here. And so I want to first express my condolences to YOU and their team. I know this is a hard day for them, but at the same time, I know that person was so committed to this program. They wanted to see it grow. And they were in the award meeting when we talked about this 3 weeks ago. And to hear the passion, to hear the commitment they had towards serving residents is part of the reason we're here today with them to present this item. So I'm going to turn it over to Craig to put a little bit more of a face and a name to the project.
Thank you, David and Frank, and thank you, committee members. YOU is proud to be the stewards of the community's summer job and internship program, and that's what we always consider this. And so just, David and Frank did a fabulous job describing the program. I'm not going to actually add a lot more, certainly answer any questions you have. But a couple things I do want to highlight and underscore. First of all, the community element of this is we really work with, you could probably name any nonprofit in town that is serving young people, and they are either helping us recruit or they're serving as a work site or both. One example I do want to highlight through this program funding last year, we engaged in a very innovative partnership with Boys and Girls Club and Habitat for Humanity. You might have seen it. It's been in the news, it's been on TV, where we were able to provide the youth wages. Boys and Girls Club provided the youth and some other infrastructure, and we rehabbed 2 houses in the Buckeye neighborhood. Actually, one of the families of the Boys and Girls Club participant moved into one of those houses. So that's the type of thing that we're doing more and more. A lot of times people think of summer jobs as work at a rec center 6 weeks and that's it. And there are a few of those still left in this. But more and more what we are doing is figuring out how this is a life-changing experience. So we welcomed the more comprehensive case management element to this. That's something YOU has wanted to do for a while. So it not only allows us to stick with these young people for a year or 2 or more after their summer work experience. The focus on careers allows us to engage in more of those creative partnerships that, as both David and Frank mentioned, really are tied to careers and have some opportunities to really be life-changing for the young people. And the last thing I would underscore is this is part of a larger initiative. There is no doubt the county is the largest funder, and we are forever grateful and appreciative of that. There is also city and some private funding. So YOU in total anticipates we'll be serving 1,500 teenagers this summer with summer work experience, but always with that same theme, trying to make it more tied to a richer and deeper experience for the young people. So I wanted to have an opportunity to answer any questions, either specifically about the program or anything that.
Councilwoman Brown, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My condolences for the loss.
Thank you.
I am a product of YOU, so I'm always, curious and excited when you guys come before me. So there are a couple of questions that I have, and pardon me if they're all over the place because I was just jotting down notes. So the first one that I wanted to be clear about, there's no WIA dollars attached to this, right?
WIOA dollars will become available July 1st. It's very possible that some dollars, when we get our new allocation, can be shifted over.
Okay, and these are TANF dollars, so we'll be reimbursed. Is that how that works?
Yeah, there is 150,000 of TANF of Health and Human Service levy dollars in this contract. Everything else is TANF. And the upside of that is we're charging this program to the federal government for the TANF resources we have. The downside is the individuals that come in have to be TANF eligible. And so, there's a minor in the household, they're under 200% of poverty, they're not under sanction. And so, this is a federally funded TANF program for the most part, although we hope as they get their new allocation, we'll be able to leverage some of their resources as well.
Are there any administrative costs affiliated?
Yeah, so the levy dollars are used because TANF does not fund finding eligibility. And as David was explaining, we really start this process in January, and the first event is they register online, and again, over 10,000 will register, but the second event is an intake event. And so in order to find 1,000 eligible families that meet all the federal guidelines, because it has to be more than they just want a summer job, they have to prove that they're TANF eligible. We invite 2,000 families, usually, to serve 1,000 youth. All the expenses tied to that intake is not covered by TANF dollars. They don't allow that. So that's that's the main thing with the levy dollars, and I guess you could call that administrative. It's the beginning of serving the young people.
Okay, and then Director Merriman, you touched on the fact that we're going to give priority to those in custody of CFS and possibly aging out of foster care. Do you anticipate or can you project how many people that would impact or include?
Yeah, so right now I'm working with the YWCA and Kate Lodge on that. We think there's 50 to 100 youth that are either in foster care or they've aged out. And then we're still gathering the lists with DCFS. And so some of those are, as I say, they're currently in custody, but some may have recently aged out as well. And if they're a parent with a child, they could still be eligible for this program.
And the bulk of these dollars, although the contract extends through a year, is primarily for summer programming?
That's right.
Okay, and then I think my final question, it's on here somewhere. I'll yield and come back if I can find it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So I just have one quick question about it. Somebody's eligibility, will they be able to get money from both sources now that you're combining the procurement process?
Our intent is that we braid funds wherever we can, that we assign portions, because individuals will be eligible from both funding sources. So it's very possible that we could use both funding sources to pay for an individual's work experience.
Okay.
And to add to that, there are many individuals that go to Ohio Means Jobs and their Youth Resource Center, and they start case management there, and they have access to a training program, which partly is funded by Cuyahoga County through your scholarship program, but is also partly funded by WIOA and partly funded by TANF. So this is that situation where we have three sets of funding coming into a provider, and we really want to help that provider, OMJ or their service providers, to access all of the resources. And I think my place and my position would be, let's utilize the federal dollars first, and let's utilize the federal dollars that don't have any sorts of caps on how frequently you utilize them. Okay. So historically, many people go to OMJ and they get one individual training account per life. They can get, right? Is that correct? They can get money to go to a training program once. That same restriction doesn't exist for TANF. And so if we can identify that a person wants to go to a training program and maybe there's multiple semesters or there's multiple components or there's stackable degrees, we want to try to utilize TANF first, even if it's an OMJ WIOA client, because our resources will be much more flexible.
Okay. And so to that point, the providers, I understand, have still been undecided. The service providers are, so can we?
We're making our way through our procurement right now. We anticipate starting contract negotiation meetings next week, and we're anticipating in the next month or so we'll be making our recommended awards.
Okay,
for
so
out of
is that
school.
application process closed to anyone who would want to
Yep.
provide? Okay.
We issued an RFP, and that was the time frame. That was the opportunity to respond.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Without any further questions, I'm going to make a motion to move this out of committee with a recommendation for second reading suspension at the next full council meeting. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll see you there. Thank you for your work.
Thank you very much.
And sorry about the loss,
Thank you.
Frank. Okay, the next item is the little bit of fun, is our scooter bike share licensing program. I don't think we need to read it again, but for the record, you can, Madam Clerk. And then come on up, Director Foley, and I did ask for some props, and they're here, so hopefully we can get a view of that when you're ready.
Ordinance number 2019-0004, enacting Chapter 721 of the County Code, authorizing bicycle and scooter share licensing.
Okay, thank you. We're
thanks.
back with some amendments. Proposed substitute is before us, and do you want to talk about that? And then I can make a motion for approval of the substitute.
Great. Okay, Mike Foley from the Department of Sustainability. Yeah, we had met with council staff last week and kind of worked through some changes that you wanted to see to the ordinance. So one is we strengthened the warehouse clause to make sure we kind of beefed it up in terms of talking about safety and accountability and reliability in the bike share system network. We did some renumbering of chapters that I think you wanted to see. We gave our ability to do licenses not to exceed 5 years. It was on an annual basis, and I think you thought we should do it and give us at least more flexibility in doing longer-term licenses. We allowed ourselves the ability to cap the number of licenses, at least in the first 2 years of the program, as we're trying to ramp up. I think we want to try to be as smart as possible about this. So it gives us the ability to cap licenses. And then if someone screws up, there's an operator out there who screws up, it gives us the ability through the law department to go after them for civil damages and civil penalties. So these were a lot of the suggestions that were made from county council staff and yourself, and so we think they make a lot of sense, and we're more than willing to go forward with them.
Any questions about the substitute bike share? Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we adopt the proposed substitute. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we're now considering the proposed substitute, and we talked about this at length, the need for this, that the operators will come in even if we don't pass something. So this is a preemptive way to have some regulation around safety and what to expect. So at this point, if we have this in front of us, I just wanted to see if you want to bring somebody up with the scooters, a sample of what we're going to be regulating.
Sure, if I could bring up both Jay Damaswala from Lyft and Josiah Sparga from who works for CycleHop that currently operates the UH bike system. So we're going to be operating, we'll be able to regulate and license both scooters, e-bikes, and the regular bikes. And then I was going to let you guys talk a couple minutes about their products. And we're not trying to say that one company's better than anyone else, but just by happenstance, these guys were around and able to talk. So,
Thank you and welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I'm Jay Dumaswala. I'm the local city manager for Cleveland for Lyft, so I work on the ride share and eventually would also have a part in bike share or scooter share if the proposal went through. So our philosophy on this is we would like to work with the county, make sure that the county and the city have regulations that work for riders, for this, and for everyone who is in the community. So we wouldn't come in and drop scooters on the corner if they were illegal. That is, I just want to put that out there right away. We did not drop scooters or bikes last year. We are really looking forward to working with you to make it a good situation for everyone. We think it's an important transportation means for first mile, last mile. We look at scooters as a way to connect people to public transportation. We partner with the GCRTA here locally. We ran a paratransit pilot program to save them money this past year. We're hoping to reignite that as well. So when we look at, we call ourselves a multimodal company. We look at bikes and scooters rideshare, public transportation is one huge ecosystem of transportation. And what we want to do is help people find the most efficient, most affordable, safest way to get from point A to point B. And we try to build that into our entire platform. So going forward, you'll find that within our application, which is run off of a smartphone, you will find that you can find a scooter nearby and it will tell you where the nearest RTA stop is, and you can ride it to the RTA stop and take the train in or take a bus in. So that is our vision, and our mission is to improve people's lives with the world's best transportation. It's a work in progress. I wish I could come in here and say that we'd solved it, but we haven't, and we're constantly trying to optimize the experience the best we can. And one of the differences between us, I think, and the other guys is we do have local operations teams. I was the first employee here for Lyft last January. Since then, we have expanded to 6 full-time employees in the Cleveland market, operations staff, marketing staff. We are also hiring additional folks here. We believe that Cleveland is a city that has a lot of opportunity. I moved here from San Francisco. I love it here. My wife and I live in Lakewood. I wouldn't move, and we just went back to San Francisco last week. I wouldn't move back for anything at this point. So I'm excited to be here and to show you guys this scooter. Thank you very much. And I can answer any questions if you have any.
Questions? Before we end, yeah, if you could just like demonstrate that
Sure.
scooter. We'll wait till the end. So we'll get one more. Thank
ask
you
you,
for
Jai-
moving here.
yeah,
We've
Josiah,
got
so-
Josiah.
So we've got a current system that is the UH bikes, and this is the bike, and it's 3 years old, our network. And it's kind of the interesting thing is just the disruption in this whole industry is just night and day from when these bikes were created. In fact, they don't even make these bikes anymore. So it's one of the problems that we have. So, and it's gone from this docked system. There's, you have to lock the bike up to the dock to dockless. And so Josiah is great. He and Patrick are on the ground. They work for UH Bikes, and they go out and rebalance bikes. They fix bikes. They mess with them and make sure they're workable when people want to use them. So he's done a great job on the system that we have now.
Wanna say-
And he's doing a lot of work on trying to think through the future as well. So.
Hey everybody, I'm Josiah. I have my buddy Patrick here. We are currently employees of CycleHop. We've been running the bike share system, like Mike said, for 3 years here in Cleveland, on the near west side and in University Circle, and I'm sure you've seen them downtown. We actually brought this bike up from right outside the front doors here. So we have a station right there. We are members of TWU Local 100 out of New York City. We've been working to create sustainable jobs in the new sustainable industries, which I think is very important. From what I've seen, the kind of the evolution of bike share going from a dock-based system, like initially, like they have in Columbus and New York City, and most of the major cities, you'll see a dock-based bike share system. It's going from the dock-based to a dockless, kind of style, I guess you could say. What we have here in Cleveland is what you could call a hybrid system, where they lock to racks. We have station sites. You can lock them to the docks, and you can also lock them to a regular bike rack. So it has ours have a U-bar that can fit around just about any bike rack here in Cleveland. And I think that this is the way to go. I just want to kind of talk about the difference between a dock-based system and a dockless system from what I've seen. Coming from Phoenix, Arizona, and going back throughout the year, they started with this hybrid system. These dockless companies moved in. The scooter companies moved in without any permits, without working with the city first, which I think is a big mistake. For one, for two, the dockless bikes tend to wind up in a public right-of-way. I've been to city meetings in Phoenix where people in wheelchairs were coming to complain because there was dockless bikes on the sidewalk, and they couldn't cross the street. They couldn't get to where they needed to go. So it's an issue there, as well as winding up in people's front yards, and they become a nuisance to the public. So I would strongly advise that going forward, you have bikes that actually do lock to something, whether it be a dock or an actual bike rack. There is an alternative solution to have a geofence. So all the bikes have GPS on them, and you can only lock the bike or end your ride within a certain area that would be designated by the city or by the county. So that way they don't wind up all over the sidewalk, they don't wind up in people's front yards, and the last rider is responsible for where that bike winds up. So you have somebody to contact if a bike just goes missing or winds up somewhere it shouldn't. Also wanted to talk about scooters as well. I think while they are fun, it is a safety issue. I would say that you could expect to see an increase in injuries and possibly fatalities because people are riding these out in the street. So that's another thing about dockless bikes. They tend to be a less expensive bike. And you get what you pay for. The functionality of the bikes is, in my opinion, unreliable. Being a bicycle mechanic for half a decade at least now, and working with these bikes, so you want the functionality of the bike to be reliable, because people are going to be riding them in traffic. So you don't want the bike to have a malfunction, and somebody to take a spill. Also the difference between bikes and scooters is a bicycle enables the rider to ride within their skill level, as opposed with scooters. You might find people that haven't been on a scooter their entire lives and jump on the thing and hit the throttle, and they're in traffic. They wind up in front of a car, So these are just scenarios that you might expect to see. So I would highly advise taking a cautious. Keeping public safety in mind. So sustainable jobs for sustainable industries. Like I said, Patrick and I are members of TW 100. There's several bike share systems in the country that are members of this union. I've seen some of the dockless companies come in. They hire through temp agencies. They're paying minimum wage. They don't have skilled mechanics working on the bikes, another safety issue. So I think that it's important to be paying the employees a livable wage, as well as insurance and giving them benefits, because if you're going to have a company, especially coming from out of state, you want them to be paying the local workers a livable wage. You want to make a good deal for the people who live here, basically. So I just wanted to emphasize those points. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Okay. So what I'd like to do, if the committee doesn't mind, is just have somebody ride this scooter for a minute so we can see. I mean, I've never been on a scooter. Have you? Councilwoman Brown? You want me to get on? No, I just want to see who wants to do it.
Sure, I can do it.
And then we'll move. I might as well move quickly as you prepare with your helmet. Are there helmet regulations for the scooters? Or
I mean, that'd be one of the things that could be considered under the.
I think we should
the
look at
licensing,
that.
yeah. Some cities have them, some cities don't.
I think we should consider the helmet. I don't know. Okay, for sure.
So the way it works is typically you just reserve it on your phone, and you can see all the scooters that are around you, and you can basically you can reserve one up to 15 minutes in advance, or you can just show up if you see one there on the street and get it going. And there is a little pad here that shows you what your battery life looks like, as well as there's a QR code that you can scan. Here too. So you just give it a couple of hits, and then it goes off on its own like that. And so you can actually You can break it two ways. You can break with your left foot here, or you can hit the stop button there.
Thank you.
It does about 35 miles.
Wow.
No, not per hour.
Oh.
35 miles.
Oh, 35 miles.
35 miles total on like a charge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then and then it does about 15 miles per hour top speed,
Okay.
and it can take hills.
All right, thank you very much.
always present with the bike?
Sorry, say that one.
your own helmet?
Yeah, you bring your own helmet. So different cities have regulated them differently. Some say you can ride on the sidewalk. Some say you can't ride on the sidewalks. But when you log into the app, we can provide instructions about wearing a helmet and things like that. So, for instance, I rode a competitive product in Indianapolis, and when I logged in, it said, "Don't ride it on the sidewalk." So I rode it on the street, and everybody there was riding it on the street because they just followed the rules. You know, I think you said a couple of examples of people getting in trouble, and all of a sudden, everybody's following the rules.
Fantastic, thank you. We'll see how it goes, too. You know, we don't know what to expect. I'm assuming it will be really successful and popular, so we appreciate your work, and we look forward to having this. So thanks. I'm going to make a motion to move this. I think you need suspension. We need to get this moving, if I recall, correct?
I mean, we're trying to coordinate with Cleveland, and we're still kind of working with them. I
So
think
we
we're a
have
couple
time.
weeks.
Okay,
I think
so
we're okay.
I'm going to make a motion to move the substituted ordinance to the next full council for second reading.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, thank you so much. And what I want to do is call up Stephanie. If you want, just want to say goodbye. If you want to come on up, I don't know if everybody knows that. Come on up. Mike, if you want to say something on behalf of your colleague. Thanks, guys.
So, we're a small department of 3 people, and so right now you're seeing 2/3 of the whole Department of Sustainability, right? But Stephanie is leaving. She's been with us for almost 2 years now. She was a Cleveland Foundation Fellow for the first year, and then we found some money to keep her on board, and she's just been amazing and wonderful, and we're going to be sad to see her go. So.
I want to wish you well, and just want to if you want to tell the committee what you'll be doing.
Oh, sure, yeah. So I'll be traveling for a while, and then I'll be going to Boston to pursue my MFA in creative writing. Yeah.
Well,
Be
good
a
luck
great
to
poet
you.
one day.
Yeah, Stephanie's a poet, so we'll be reading about some of your memories from Cuyahoga County, and thanks for what you've been able to do with the department, and it's been a lot. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
So good
thank
luck,
you.
and look forward to see where you land.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay, for sure. Thanks, everybody. And lastly, this is the Environmental Committee, and I think what I'm going to start to do when we're here is just to give a notation of what's happening with the environment, and I pay close attention to this, but something that struck me just in the news yesterday was the Great Barrier Reef. I don't know if you've seen that it's not able to regenerate now with the baby coral because of the heat waves going through the ocean and rippling through the barrier reef, and this is the largest organism of coral reef now that does, from bleaching, what occurs to the coral reef, it bleaches with the waves, and the heating up of the ocean is just destroying the coral reef. So maybe next time we'll show a picture of what it was, and we're going to lose this greatest living part of our ocean and reef. It's really devastating that the baby coral now cannot regenerate for the next generation of coral, and it's because of this bleaching that occurs from the warmth and the heat of the ocean. So as climate change continues, we're going to see how this is impacting so many facets of this planet, and the next generation's not going to be able to see what we've taken for granted or don't, never thought really we would see an end to it. But looks like we're going to lose the reef. So on that somber note, but on the other hand, we have a lot of energy around trying to protect and mitigate climate change, and one of these ways is through bike share and scooter and everything else that we can do here in sustainability and protect the next generation is really vital, and everything adds up. So thank you.